Racist cop stops black man, then finds out he's internal affairs chief. Sir, step out of the vehicle, now. The barrel of his gun glinted in the sun as he screamed like I'd stolen something. But all I did was signal left and pull over. I didn't know it yet, but this stop wasn't about a broken taillight. It was about the color of my skin. And what he didn't know. I investigate men exactly like him. My name is Marcus Ellison, Internal Affairs Chief. And this is how I caught a racist cop red-handed, with his own weapon still trembling in my face. I remember the time exactly, 11:47 a.m. clear skies. Mid-June. The kind of morning that should have promised nothing but peace. I was driving my black Genesis G90, leather seats warm under me, sea humming just right. The jazz station was playing Nina Simone's Sinner Man. I was fresh out of a high-level breakfast meeting with the mayor and 2 community leaders. My tie still knotted. Suit crisp. Badge tucked inside my inner coat pocket. I've been in law enforcement over 20 years. Worked up from patrol officer to internal affairs. I've seen every dirty trick in the book. Every excuse. Every cover-up. Every racial profile hidden behind the thin blue line. But I didn't expect to be the next one in line. I was headed to Police Plaza for a disciplinary hearing. Another case of a cop harassing a young Latino man during a so-called routine stop. I was scheduled to chair the hearing. But first, I had to drive through a quiet strip of highway, just me, sunlight, and the truth waiting on the other end. That's when the red and blue lights lit up behind me. At first, I thought maybe there was an emergency vehicle trying to pass. I checked my mirrors, nothing. Then I realized the cruiser was tailing me. I moved over. It followed. I looked again, white officer. Late 30s. Aviators. Close-shaved head. You can always tell by the posture. This wasn't curiosity. This was intent. I signaled. Pulled over into a wide shoulder. Rolled down my window. Sat with both hands on the wheel, exactly how we're trained to tell our sons to do. He approached with fire already in his eyes. License and registration. I handed them over. He didn't even glance at them. This your car? Yes, officer. Registered in my name. Where you headed? Police Plaza. Downtown. You a lawyer or something? No, sir. Then why the hell you going to Police Plaza? I tilted my head slightly. Is that relevant to the stop? That triggered him. It was subtle, but you could see it. The tension in the jaw. The slight twitch in the eye. He was trying to assert control. Step out of the vehicle. Now. I paused. May I ask the reason? Now. He yanked the door open and barked again. In that moment, I had a choice. Escalate or comply. I chose to comply. But I memorized every second. He pushed me against the hood. Frisked me hard. Not pat down polite. Not, I'm just checking. This was accusatory. Violent in energy even if not in force. You carrying anything? Weapons? Substances? No, sir. You smell like weed. I don't smoke. Never have. But that's not the point. He was setting a narrative. I looked to my left. Someone had stopped. A woman in a Prius with her phone out. Recording. I met her eyes and nodded subtly. Then he opened my glove box without permission. Where's the insurance? In the leather pouch. You're opening it illegally, by the way. That was when I'd had enough. I'm requesting your supervisor. He turned and stepped in close, too close. You threatening me? No, officer. I'm exercising my rights. He placed a hand on his firearm. Just rested it there. You think you know the law? I reached slowly into my coat. Deliberate. Come. Practiced. He reached for his holster in response. I said softly, don't. I'm retrieving my badge. And then I held it up. Gold. Heavy. Shiny. Official. Marcus Ellison. Internal Affairs Division. Badge number 2276. You just profiled the wrong man. You ever see a man's soul leave his body? That's what his face looked like. A whole career rewinding in front of him like a VHS tape on fast forward. He stepped back. This is a misunderstanding. I pulled out my phone. Say your name and badge number clearly. You are being recorded. He stammered. Officer Keating. Badge 5189. My voice was steel. You're going to call your supervisor. Right now. He hesitated. Now, officer. Lieutenant Harper arrived 6 minutes later. She recognized me immediately. Chief Ellison. I wasn't informed you were. I interrupted. Your officer initiated an unlawful stop, conducted an illegal search, used threatening behavior, and attempted to fabricate probable cause. Keating stood frozen. Body cam footage? Harper turned to him. Was it on? His silence was an answer. I turned to Harper. I want a written report and immediate review of his past stop patterns. We'll be opening a misconduct inquiry as of this moment. That should have been it. A clean bust. An open and shut case. But something bothered me. The way he kept scanning my car. Like he was looking for something specific. Like he'd done this before. And gotten away with it. I drove away shaken, but not because of the stop. Because I've spent my life trying to fix what's broken inside this system. But it still breaks for me. Even with a badge. At Police Plaza, my assistant greeted me at the door. Sir, are you okay? You're late. Pull Officer Keating's personnel file. For the hearing? No. For something bigger. 2 hours later, I had it in my hands. That's when the puzzle pieces began to click. A history of complaints. Mostly traffic stops. Mostly black and brown drivers. All dismissed. All vanished before review. The red flags were there, but someone had been deleting the files. That night, I stayed in my office late. Cross-checking data. License plates. Dashcam records. Gaps in evidence. Patterns in location. The man was running a pattern. And I wasn't the first. Not by a long shot. I called Lieutenant Harper. Did Keating ever work Vice? No. Just traffic. Any confidential informants? Internal reports. She paused. Why do you ask? Because he's not just stopping people randomly. He's choosing them. I contacted a friend in IT. Had him restore deleted files from Keating's cruiser logs. What we found chilled me. Dozens of undocumented stops. Same stretch of road. Same profile. Same time frame. No tickets. No arrests. Just warnings. No record of body cam uploads. That's not just misconduct. That's a pattern. That's predation. The next morning, I took the findings to the deputy commissioner. She raised her eyebrows but didn't flinch. And you got this, how? Off his own dashcam backups. He thought he deleted them. He didn't. What do you want to do? Launch a full investigation. Quietly. I'll lead it myself. I thought she'd resist. Instead, she looked me in the eye and said, You sure you're ready for what you're about to find? I nodded. He's not acting alone. Somebody's protecting him. And I was right. Because the next day I received an anonymous email. Subject line, not just Keating. Inside. PDF. Dozens of names. Badge numbers. Times. Locations. A whole network. And at the top of the list, a name I'd never expected. Someone high up. Way too high. And that's when I knew. This isn't a bad cop problem. This is a conspiracy. And I just became the man standing in the middle of it. They thought I was just another brother behind the wheel. They didn't know I was the man who investigates them. But what came after Keating's stop wasn't just about a single racist cop. It was about a system. A conspiracy. One that went all the way to the top. And I had to decide, expose them all and risk everything. Or stay silent and become the very thing I swore to fight. The spreadsheet I received at 4:36 a.m. sat open on my laptop, glowing like a digital confession. Dozens of names. Dozens of badge numbers. A web of racial profiling incidents across the same 3-mile highway corridor. And at the very top, a name that made my stomach drop. Deputy Chief Harold Benton. That man wasn't just a colleague. He was a power broker. A 25-year veteran. Someone with enough pull to bury entire investigations. And now, he was the final piece of a puzzle I hadn't even realized I was building. My first instinct was to confront him. My second? To survive. I've been in internal affairs for a long time. I've taken down violent offenders in uniform, corrupt precinct captains, even a sergeant who ran a bribery ring out of his own locker. But this was something different. This wasn't just about bad cops. This was organized, deliberate, systemic, and it needed to be exposed carefully so they couldn't hide the evidence or silence me. I reached out to the one person I trusted without question, Detective Layla Brooks. Sure. Loyal. Unshakable. We came up together. And she hated corruption more than I did. When she saw the spreadsheet, she didn't blink. You realize this is going to blow the whole department wide open? I know. That's why I'm coming to you first. Then let's do this right. We decided to run a covert operation. Quiet but thorough. Layla would dig through system logs, trace the body cam data, and match the incident IDs with the official traffic stop logs. I'd pull Keating's entire record, and anyone linked to the same pattern. But what chilled me was how precise the pattern was. The stops weren't random. They were targeted. Drivers were usually black or Latino, between ages 20 and 50, often in nice cars and business attire. That's not enforcement. That's hunting. We found logs with cars labeled black male, Benz tinted, possible narcotics. Latina, alone, luxury car, check ID, clean plate, suspicious. No cause. No violations. Just profiles. Made me sick. Then we found deleted dashcam files, dozens of them. The internal server showed their uploads had been manually removed, and the files corresponded with the same set of officers. Jennings, Whitehall, Vargas, Keating. All from the 14th precinct. All connected to Benton. I stared at the list. The 14th had always had a reputation, quietly referred to as the firewall. Now I knew why. It was the firewall, protecting them from accountability. We needed one final piece of evidence, something irrefutable. So I decided to bait the system. I gave Layla the keys to my car, the same one Keating stopped me in. She would drive the same route at the same time, dressed like I had been, sharp suit, sunglasses, calm demeanor. We didn't wait long. 8 minutes in, she was pulled over. Officer Jennings. Another one from the spreadsheet. He leaned into her window and immediately lied. You were swerving. She had been driving in a perfectly straight line. He asked for ID. She gave him a detective's badge. Then she asked, "This stop being recorded?" He hesitated. "Sure. Because I've got my own recording too." She held up her phone, camera on. He went pale. Didn't issue a warning. Didn't write a report. Just said, "Have a good day," and walked away. It was all we needed. We now had the pattern, the missing files, the spreadsheet, the bait and catch traffic stop, and the person tying it all together? Benton. We compiled a full case file, over 180 pages. Layla worked overnight. So did I. At 9 a.m. the next morning, I walked into Commissioner Field's office. She raised an eyebrow. This a complaint? It's a cancer. And it's eating your department from the inside out. I dropped the file on her desk. She opened it, flipped through the first few pages. By page 10, her mouth was tight. By page 30, she stood up and said, "Call IA. No one else. Not HR. Not legal. This doesn't leave this office." What followed was one of the biggest internal takedowns in the department's history. Commissioner Fields placed immediate lockdown on the 14th precinct's digital access. Body cam archives were frozen. Officers on the spreadsheet were placed on administrative leave, every single one. Then Benton was called in. He walked in smiling. Sat down like nothing was wrong. Then Fields pressed play on the surveillance footage. His face didn't change until she dropped the spreadsheet in front of him. "Your name's on the approval line. Do you deny this?" He stood up. Tried to argue it was all a misunderstanding. Said IA was overreaching. Fields nodded and said 5 words. "You're under internal investigation. Effective immediately." He called for a lawyer. And then everything unraveled. Over the next 48 hours, 11 officers were suspended. 6 were arrested. Keating was found to have over 40 undocumented stops in 2 months. Jennings had tampered with body cam footage. Whitehall had extorted drivers for cash warnings. And Benton? We traced financial records and found payments, bribes, wired from private security firms looking for intelligence on black drivers with expensive vehicles. The goal? Seize cash and assets under the guise of suspicion. It was racketeering with a badge. The FBI was called in. Benton was arrested. He tried to make a deal. But it was too late. The evidence was airtight. The media exploded. National headlines. Protests outside the 14th. Victims came forward with their own stories, some from years back. And me? I became a target. Anonymous threats. A dead raccoon left on my car hood. Someone scratched "snitch" into my office door. But I didn't care. Because I'd done the one thing they never expected. I survived the stop and I spoke up. 2 months later, I stood in a press room as Commissioner Fields announced a new department-wide policy overhaul. Independent civilian review boards. Required body cam audits. Anti-bias retraining. Real consequences. She looked me in the eye, handed me a plaque and said, "For exposing the rot and protecting the soul of this department." I thanked her. But in my heart, I knew I hadn't protected the soul. I just forced it to look in the mirror. After that, I took some time off. Went to visit my mother in South Carolina. Sat on her porch. Sipped coffee. Watched the birds. She asked me, was it worth it? I thought of Benton. Of Keating. Of the faces of the drivers who would never be stopped again. Yes, I said. It was worth it. I eventually resigned from IA. Not because I was tired, but because it was time for someone new, someone like Layla, to carry it forward. Now I teach law enforcement reform, speak at HBCUs, mentor cadets, and every so often I get recognized. Aren't you the guy from that case? Yes, I am. And I always will be. Because in the end, justice isn't a headline. It's a fight. And you don't win it by standing still. You win it by moving forward, badge in hand, truth in your heart. If this story opened your eyes, don't let it end here. Share it. Talk about it. Demand accountability. Racial profiling is real, and the only way it ends is when we expose it, fight it, and change it. Subscribe to this channel for more stories that demand truth, justice, and healing.